Joining us is Coralie Wales, President of Chronic Pain Australia. Coralie, how prevalent is chronic pain in the workplace and what is the main cause?
It's really hard to put a number on pain prevalence in the workplace, but in the general community, you're looking at 1 person in 5 will report that they have chronic pain. That means pain that's experienced on a daily basis for excess of 3 to 6 months. But it's half that number, so it's 1 in 10 that are saying that pain is interfering with their lives, which means that it might be affecting their ability to work, or it might be affecting their ability to play with their kids or take their kids to sporting functions, or even, do their housework, that sort of thing. So I guess you could safely say that it's about that number in the workplace. About 1 in 10 are going to be reporting interference due to pain at work.
And the main cause?
You've got to look at context for cause, because people will fall over and hurt themselves, and that's pretty common. But when you look at the statistics, they talk about body stressing injuries, which are to do with workers' comp in particular. But the context for that will make a difference, because if you have a policeman who's had a traumatic injury or fallen over during a raid, and the stressful circumstances of his work, of the nature of his work, will change the physiology of his chemistry will be different in that circumstance to if he just knocked his knee on the coffee table in his living room. So, and what I mean by that is that the chemistry for stress, we know from the research, affects the experience of pain and makes it worse. So it's sort of like setting you up for the likelihood of chronic pain if there is stress around that injury.
How does it affect productivity?
Again, that's really hard to put your finger on, but we know that people stop going to work because of pain, and they also are less effective at work. And a figure that was given by Van Leeuwen et al. A couple of years ago in some research said that $5.1 billion is what it costs us in terms of lost productivity at work every year in Australia. So it's a very big number and very concerning, because we've got an ageing workforce, and we've got a skill shortage and other things. So it is a really big number, and we have to do something about it.
It is a big number. How important is it to retain workers who suffer chronic pain?
Well, this is really the issue for us as a nation. We're experiencing an ageing population, and there's some interesting things that happen in that prime working age, in those years between 35 and 55, because what we're finding increasingly is that people in those years have got more than 1 or 2 or 3 chronic conditions. So if you've already got, say, an autoimmune problem or an arthritis problem or a low-grade back pain, and then you have an injury, you've got a very complex problem, and that's what we're looking at. People are already sick in those years, or suffering with other conditions. So, given that we're ageing, we've got those problems. Chronic pain is an overlay, and so managing that becomes really important. And retaining those workers is critical, because as a nation we need those numbers in our workforce.
So, how best can it be managed?
Well, I guess what I've been saying for a long time is that if you speak to people in workers' compensation systems, you'll find that they say that they don't feel like they have control over what's going on. And if you don't have control over what's going on, then it's going to be really... physiology is different. If you don't have control, you're ready to defend yourself. So your physiology is different, and this is something that I touch on in the conference. And I think it's what sort of keeps us going. If we think that we've got a grip on things, if we think that we can actually participate in the decision-making around our injury, we feel better about it. It's important that we do feel good about it. And so the people that I've helped over a decade, mostly what I've been doing is helping them sort of reclaim control.
Coralie Wales, one final question. What points will you be touching on in your presentation to the National Workers' Compensation Summit 2009 in Melbourne on the 23rd to the 26th of February?
Well, all the questions you've raised so far bring us to the point where if we're going to be retaining workers after chronic pain, after minor injuries which become chronic, after the the huge number of soft tissue injuries that become chronic. I think it's something like $109 or so million in New South Wales that we spent on those claims, which are just soft tissue injuries that result in permanent impairment. So if we're going to do that, we have to look at new models. And so I'm fairly convinced that we have to look at what is really going on when somebody's in chronic pain, which means having a deep understanding of the physiology of chronic pain. And not just that we should understand it, but the workers need to understand it too, because if they understand that every time they have an argument or every time they feel frightened or anxious or distressed or frustrated, that they're actually increasing those chemicals that are going to make pain worse, I think they do better. I think we've got to really work hard on improving the level of control that workers feel that they have, and that means bringing them into the process and not excluding them from the process of planning. And I think that happens a lot. That we, in rehab and in medicine, we hold the power. And that's a problem. So I'm going to be touching on all of that. I'm going to be touching on the fact that we can produce a circle around our injured workers, which makes them the leader rather than them the follower. It shouldn't be that I, as the clinician, am the boss. It shouldn't be that. It should be that I, as the worker, am the leader of this rehabilitation picture, if you like. And when we do that, it really works. It means giving up control. The clinician has to be prepared to say it's okay for the worker to make decisions. And if we can do that, we actually reduce a lot of the game playing that goes on in rehabilitation. People that are deprived of control will manipulate. And that's just the way it is. So we need to help workers take back control. And I suppose that's really my thesis, is that we need to do that. The community needs to be involved as well, because we have a bit of a trust issue. If a worker feels that they haven't had control for a long, they can go on for years feeling that they haven't had control. And part of that is because they don't trust what's going on. And how do we get them back into a position of trusting? And I suppose a lot of research is now saying we have to look to the community, which is why Chronic Pain Australia exists. If it comes from the community, we trust it. So anyway, I guess I'll be touching on all of those things in my presentation.
Coralie, thanks for joining us. I'm sure delegates will take a keen interest in your talk, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference.
I look forward to being there. Thanks for today.